In Turkey are told to abandon the worst affected areas as the risk of disease grows.
A dry run for the Y2K bug. Boaties report plain sailing as a popular navigation system gets back on time.
A cultural icon makes a comeback as young Japanese follow a cool new fashion trend.
And a local blast from the past, a revamped version of an old favourite.
Our top story, a grim reality forces a change of tactics in Turkey.
Rescue teams from more than 50 countries rushed to the aid of people trapped in Tuesday's earthquake. But some are now returning home, believing they can do no more. The confirmed death toll has passed 12,000 and it's expected to hit 40,000 in the days ahead. But the pressing need now is to save the survivors. Miracles have been few, and as CBS's Ellen Pizzi reports, the situation for tens of thousands is desperate.
Against all the odds, 10-year-old Shirin Franco was lifted from the rubble of a hotel by Israeli rescuers this morning, 3 days after her mother was found alive. Shirin's twin brother died. Her father and grandparents are still buried, but believed dead. And in the devastated town of Golchuk, a young man trapped for 5 days was rescued by his neighbors. Rescuers themselves are at risk. With dead bodies under the rubble and filth everywhere, every cut and graze carries the chance of infection. Tetanus shots are now being given to diggers. But everyone is at risk, and they know it. Chaos ensued when dust masks and antibiotics appeared at a distribution point. It's not that medical help isn't available. Broken limbs and cuts are obvious and easily treated. What doctors who are forced to work in hospital grounds and temporary buildings really fear is waterborne diseases.
Gastroenteritis disease and typhus and dysenterias, those kind of disease.
Gastroenteritis, typhoid, dysentery.
Yes.
7-year-old Merva is already a victim of gastroenteritis. The summer weather that makes it possible for people to live and be treated outside is also a curse. It makes it easier for diseases to breed.
Every possible open space is packed with people who can't go home. In this city block-sized park alone, nearly 2,000 are camped out, with just 2 taps to supply them with fresh water.
Whole families are living, sleeping, cooking and eating next to stagnant ponds and fountains choked with rotting vegetables and cigarette butts. The men and women sweeping up kept repeating the same word, microbe. Doctors say the danger will become acute in about 7 days' time. That people can keep going under such circumstances speaks volumes for the human spirit. But there is a limit to how much anyone can bear.
The earthquake left a trail of destruction 280 kilometres long by 35 kilometres wide. It's estimated that about 200,000 people are homeless. 19,000 tents have been put up in the worst affected areas, but mass graves containing hundreds of quake victims have also become a new feature on the rubble-strewn landscape. Meanwhile, there's further frustration for crews battling a fire in the country's main oil refinery. After putting out the main fire, another broke out, sending billowing smoke into the badly polluted air above Izmit. Firefighters say it's now under control again.
The Turkish government estimates that 60,000 buildings have been destroyed or damaged. In Adapazarı, whole streets are being bulldozed, the search for survivors giving way to the need to find and bury the dead. The BBC's Gavin Hewitt reports.
Adnan Menderes, one street in Adapazarı, destroyed as completely as if bombed in wartime. Amidst the rubble, some residents remain. But here at least there is little room for the specialist rescue teams. Today, large bulldozers were churning the ruins, whilst local men watched for bodies. Some were found, but many more remain. A decision has been taken to bulldoze the entire street. It's seen as the best way to ensure the dead are found and buried. All day, trucks have been carrying the rubble to a giant pit outside the town. Later in the day, a British rescue team from Rapid UK was told that from midnight tonight, their skills would not be needed. Many other damaged sections of the city are to be bulldozed, flattened, and then sprayed with disinfectant. For tonight, there are growing fears of typhoid and cholera. Residents like Tulin were today scavenging for possessions. She lost her mother in the earthquake, and now she's preparing to leave a street that soon will not exist. Almost half the buildings in this town of 150,000 people will have to come down. The Oxus family, leaving tonight, are convinced there is no future. Adabazari is finished, he said. Everyone's going, we're going to go. Of course, it's over. From behind their curtained limousines, ministers viewed the town today. They remain wary of meeting the people directly. What is extraordinary on day 5 is how little Turkey's large armed forces have been used, either in the rescue attempts or in searching the rubble. It has led to mounting criticism, such as a headline in one of today's papers. It wasn't so much the buildings that fell apart, it was the system. With some of the searching ending, there is the start of an exodus from the worst affected cities, refugees within their own country.
Some Turks living in New Zealand are still desperately waiting for news of their loved ones. It's almost impossible to get a phone connection to Istanbul and difficult to ring out. Nicola Salmon reports.
Setting up for dinner tonight, but this restaurateur is sick with worry. His 16-year-old daughter and 18-year-old son live in an apartment in the earthquake zone. He hasn't heard a word from them since the quake 6 days ago.
Last night maybe 20 times I'm calling. And daytime maybe 21st time I'm just called them and never contact.
He wants to fly to Turkey to look for them, but can't leave the business.
I'm just waiting, only waiting.
His business colleague is worried as well, after his brother managed to call from Turkey with news of his many cousins.
He said we contact some of them, they are fine, but some of them, a lot of them, still there, nothing.
Mr. Gultekin's hardest task is to keep up a brave front after such a horrific disaster.
We are in the hospitality business. We have to smile, we have to be happy, but we're not at the moment.
At a nearby restaurant, more worry.
My family live in Istanbul, 21 people. 4 days no contact because telecom building rubbish.
Just waiting and watching the TV, that's it.
Clearly, it could be some time before the waiting's over. Nicola Salmon, One Network News.
And an Australian firefighter has joined the international rescue effort. He's Warwick Kidd, one of the heroes of the Thredbo landslide disaster.
Here at home, it's been a grim weekend on our roads with 7 fatalities. 3 people died in a crash near Rotorua. There were 2 fatal crashes near Auckland, 1 south of Stratford and another near Tauranga. 43 people have died on the roads this month, 10 more than last August. The road toll for the year is also 26 more than at the same time last year. Residents in Christchurch are busy fixing their rooftops tonight after a mini tornado struck the suburb of Avondale. Trees came down and fences blew over, and it was all over in a matter of minutes. Joe Malcolm reports.
The mini tornado struck with a vengeance, bringing down power lines, weaving a path of destruction through fence lines and ripping branches off trees.
Went outside to put the car away and the neighbour's roof tiles smashed on the ground. Then we saw like a little mini tornado head across into the houses across the way.
Residents say they heard a loud roar and a bang. Some feared for their lives.
Well, I've never experienced anything like it in my lifetime before. You know, it's a new experience to me. But I thought the whole house was starting to lift.
Luckily, the damage was limited to roof tiles and spouting, although in one house a whole window blew out.
Our window got smashed against the back fence. We just had the kids screaming for a few minutes, thinking all the other windows would break.
It was all over in a matter of minutes. Locals left to clean up, wondering what had hit them. Joe Malcolm, One Network News.
Boaties who use satellite navigation equipment reported smooth sailing today as their high-tech systems made a fresh start. Like a precursor to the Y2K problems for conventional computers, midday today marked a rollover period for GPS, or global positioning systems. There was concern many receivers might lose their sense of location as their clocks reset to 0. Phil O'Sullivan reports.
The timer on this global positioning system counts down to midday, and with it, the possibility its date will reset incorrectly.
If it falls over, I'd be very surprised. There we go. And the time's okay, and it's still locked on.
No problems for this newer model, but in Auckland, this older system stopped working. Without a backup navigation system, the user could easily get lost.
If that's all you're relying on and you were at sea or in an aircraft, yeah, it could be a problem.
The receivers show their position from information relayed from 24 satellites orbiting the Earth. They're dependent on a timer running on 19.5-year cycles. It was feared leisure users with older receivers mightn't realise they were getting inaccurate information.
Mine's all right, still working. 12 o'clock's gone. She's turned over all right.
The Civil Aviation Authority says most planes used more than one navigation system, and boaties were prepared.
I think the yachting clubs, people like Coast Guard and the like, were all working together just to ensure that everybody was fully aware, and that seems to have paid dividends.
But this problem won't go away. GPS receivers will reset themselves again in 19.5 years' time. Phil O'Sullivan, One Network News.
To an inspirational story now about a Dunedin man who's become a black belt in karate. John Marrable's achieved his success the hard way, as John McDermott reports.
John Marrable's always liked a challenge. Aged 11, it cost him dearly. The day after this Edinburgh photo, a climbing accident left him in a wheelchair.
Nice to be sort of looked upon as an inspiration, but to me I do it because I enjoy it.
His 25-year interest in karate has taken him overseas, done wonders for his health, his spirits and those around him.
They said I couldn't do it, so that made me all the more determined to learn karate.
Now he's the teacher.
He's an inspiration to us all. Even though he hasn't got the use of his legs, he can have you backwards over his wheelchair in seconds flat.
The 43-year-old English-born banking consultant's also played wheelchair basketball to provincial level. But since coming here in the 70s, karate's been his passion. It's 18 years, though, since he took on this many tiles. One short, but the message is there.
If you want to do something, there's a way that you can do it. And hopefully people will see me doing karate and think, well, karate's not for me, but I'd like to give such and such a go.
John Marrable hopes he'll still be giving karate a go for a good few years yet. John McDermott, One Network News.
The unstoppable human spirit. Coming up on One Network News, Texas battens down the hatches as a hurricane looms offshore.
Relics of the Cold War, how Russia's mafia is turning them into hard cash.
Oscar winner Gina Davis takes aim for Olympic gold.
And a symbol of Japanese elegance gets a millennium makeover.
Final preparations. We don't want to risk anything. As the final episode of one of New Zealand's favourite shows promises to be a real treat.
He's been doing most of the bottom cleaning.
The Zoo, 7 o'clock tonight on TV1.